Hi there and good morning. I am Ms. Sherry Salinel, a junior high school faculty of the Basic Education Department, and thank you very much for inviting me to give a short discussion about instructional materials and technology tools, specifically identifying the characteristics of instructional materials and technology tools that we can apply as we choose them for our classroom instruction. So let's begin our short discussion today. So we are going to start our discussion on instructional materials and technology tools, specifically characteristics of a good, appropriate instructional materials and technology tools. First, let us answer some of the questions that we need so that we will be able to understand why do we have to study instructional materials and technology tools, and why do we have to use them inside the classroom. Why can't we just deliver our lesson? Why can't we just show them any pictures that we can use just to describe what we are talking about inside the classroom? The first question that we have to answer is, what are the instructional materials and technology? We have to identify this first so that we can have a better understanding why do we have to use them. Of course, instructional materials and technology tools are the resources or the materials that help us teachers teach the lesson or deliver the lesson. These are the tools that we use in delivering educational lessons, which includes active learning and, of course, assessment. Why do we use instructional materials and technology tools? Of course, we cannot just grab any materials and just deliver it and use it in our classroom and just say, oh, we have instructional materials. We have to identify its purpose. It should always be related to what we are going to deliver inside the classroom. Not only related to our subject, but of course, related to that particular topic that we are going to discuss in the meeting or in our classroom. And using appropriate instructional materials and technology tools allow our students to really interact with us, which will develop their abilities in reading, listening, solving, viewing, thinking, speaking, writing, and even using different media and technology for their learning, which they can interact with us with words, symbols, ideas, or in any ways that they can develop or express themselves. Okay? Next, when do we use instructional materials and technology tools? During the face-to-face instruction, it is really easy to identify when are we going to use instructional materials. Whenever inside the classroom, whenever we deliver the lesson. However, we are now in the online environment. We are now delivering lessons online. So, can we still use the same instructional materials even in online classes? Of course, we can. These materials can still be used, of course, in face-to-face or in online classroom. However, when we use instructional materials from face-to-face activities or instruction, we have to redesign them, modify them so that it will be more effective or efficient to be used in online classes. It should also support or align to the learning objectives and assessments and class activities that we deliver inside the classroom. We are not just going to bring any instructional materials then and present it to the class. Oh, class, this is our instructional materials. You take a look at this and the topic is like this, blah, 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 blah. It should always be a support to the topic. That is the main reason or the purpose of instructional materials. It should support the lesson. Okay? And since we are mentioning this already, of course, we have to identify. If we are going to use instructional materials during our class meetings or discussion with the class, we have to use instructional materials, we have to use technology tools. Now, how can we identify which of all of this? There are different kinds of instructional materials and technology tools, variety of them, different types, and now how can we choose? Okay, which of them is appropriate for our topic. We can identify few characteristics, and some of the obvious here is the physical characteristics. We have here 5. Okay, there's a lot more if you are going to search from other references, but we just identify 5 here. Of course, the size, the color, the durability, the relatability, and if it is manipulative for the students. Let us discuss or at least give a short talk on each item here for physical characteristics. First, the size. Okay, it is really important that we use appropriate size inside the classroom, the material that we use inside the classroom, whether it's an instructional materials that physically you're going to bring in front of the class, whether it's a picture or a flashcard or a poster or anything that you are going to show to the class. It should be big enough for all the students to see anywhere from the classroom, anywhere from the room. Okay, it should be big enough to be seen by everyone, whether the student is placed at the farthest part of the class or on the side. Okay, the material should be seen by the students. The same if you are using technology tools. For example, you are using PowerPoint in your discussion. Okay, we need to also identify the content of our PowerPoint, like the font, of course, that when we put the lessons, okay, in PowerPoint presentation, here we need to identify the font style. When we say font style, of course, it includes different items as well: the design, the size, the color, and the alignment. When we say design, the font design, this is actually the name of the font we are going to use in our PowerPoint, for our PowerPoint. And in PowerPoint presentation, it is not really a requirement, but a suggestion, okay, that it is better to use sans serif font. These are the fonts without tails, okay, so these are the fonts that using just straight lines. Example of this are Arial, Verdana, Calibri, okay, all the fonts that without tails, okay, because when our students, we are going to take a look at the slides or your presentation, the movement of their eyes will not be that complicated for them. They will just read straight letters, okay, no curves, okay. So you can still use serif font. The serif font are the fonts with tails, but as much as possible, it is advised or suggested that it should be in minimal, okay. Okay, we just use sans serif, okay. And then the size. For the size of the font, for the title, it should be a minimum of 24. It depends on the size of the audience or the class, okay, but the minimum should be 24 for the title. But for the body of the text, it should be 16 to 18, again depending on the size of the audience, okay, or the class. And then the color, okay, later on we are going to discuss further about colors, but of course when we put content to our slides, okay, we have to really identify the colors. We really need to choose, okay, the colors that we are going to use in our PowerPoint presentation. Not only in PowerPoint presentation, but for the actual material that we are going to bring inside the class. Like for example, we are going to put posters or bring posters, pictures, or other materials that needed in our instruction. Alignment, of course, the text location. Where should we put the text of in our slides, okay, or even in the printouts, okay, in the posters, in the pictures that we are going to use. If there are text, where should it be located, okay? So that is the requirement for the size as a physical characteristics of our instructional material. Next is here the color, okay. Most of us, not only our students, we are really that attracted to bright colors. It really we can give attention, direct attention when we see bright colors. Okay. However, of course, colors help learners increase attention levels for certain information. That is why when students or some of us, when people see red colors in food chains, okay, they can easily identify that it's a food chain. Or even the mascot used in those food chains are using particular color so that it will really make a mark to the to every people who will see that particular color or mascot wearing that particular color. No? The same with delivering of instruction or using instructional materials or technology tools. Colors help our students remember what they see. Okay? Remember, most of us, if not all, are visual learners. We can easily understand things or learn things if we see them. Okay? We can be able to relate colors to that, okay, to that particular topic or that particular lesson. It can be transferred to short-term and long-term memory by increasing their chance to memorize that information by anchoring it to a particular color. Okay? In creating instructional materials or identifying technology tools or using or creating instructional materials, we actually apply or use two functions, or we see two functions in visual design. Okay? First, color in visual design supports the learners to process materials cognitively. They easily understand what is it about because they were able to relate themselves. Okay? They are familiar with the color. Like for example, when they see Jollibee, they can see red. Even they just see the eyes of Jollibee. Okay? When people see other colors, okay? Like for example, when we see blue and white, okay? Oftentimes we remember St. Mary's College because it's it's the color of the school. Okay? So we were able to process the materials cognitively. Number 2 function of visual design, particularly applying colors to our instructional material, is its influence learners' attitude and motivation. Okay? Because we are attracted to good colors, especially if it is combined, it is a good color combination. Okay? So we just really would like to see more of it. Okay? Like, there's a study in psychology about colors. No? It actually affects the human behavior. Okay? And so, with this, okay, in summary, we can say that colors affects the, first, it influence learners' cognition and as well as its emotion. So, it is really good to utilize colors, but we can consult the color wheel to use or to choose a good color combination so that it will not be irritating for some, no? Because oftentimes bad color combination is really not good for instruction. It can be a nuisance for some. Okay, it can make some students confused. Why is the teacher using that particular color on this particular topic? Why is it related? Blah blah blah. Okay. And then the next is the durability. When we use instructional materials, whether we bring it physically inside the class or we use software, for example, whether we use online application, for example, durability is really a must because we are not just going to use it once. It should be used in multiple classes in a longer period of time. Okay? Like for example, some of the technology tools that we have now, some of them are online. Okay? And it should still be accessible even in some in more than a month, for example, so that your students can still visit that particular activity if they will be allowed to. Okay? And then, the fourth one is the relatability. Okay? It should be related to the topic, as we have mentioned in the second question that we have answered, the purpose of the instruction. It should not only be used, instructional materials and technology tools should not be used inside the classroom just for the sake of having them inside the classroom. It should be related to the topic, not only to your subject, not only, let's, for example, I am a computer teacher, and because I'm a computer teacher, I can use any online softwares. Okay? It's not like that. We have to use which online software is related or can be or is appropriate to my topic for this meeting. Okay? It's not just use any instructional material available. You really need to identify. It should be related to your topic. And lastly, it should be manipulative. Here, the students should be able to explore or operate it. Okay? For example, Mentimeter. There are numbers of activities there that we can use and let our students answer the activities. The ARA links is a very good example of that. There's a lot of activities there, and wherein you can ask your students to write down or to answer, rather, to explore, so that they will be able to understand the lesson using those activities only. So that's a very good example, no? So these are the physical characteristics of instructional material and technology tool. However, all of these physical characteristics are the obvious characteristics of a good, appropriate instructional materials and technology tool. But let me give you some more. Okay? So, what should we keep in mind in choosing or making instructional materials and technology tools? What should we keep in mind? Always, even all of the physical characteristics are available. Okay, you see all of them in those instructional materials. You really need to what? Still, choose appropriate related or choose materials appropriately related to the learning objective. Is it connected to the topic that you are going to discuss? Okay? Not because it is just available, but it is really can support the topic that you are going to deliver. It support the learning and not merely creative distractions. Okay? It will really make your students think. Okay? Really develop their learnings. Okay? Really develop their understanding about the topic, and not just asking them to make things, to make this output, particular output, just to see if they were able to do this without them really displaying what they have learned. Okay? It should support the learning of the student, assessment of the learning, so that you will be able to see if that students were able to apply what they have learned from your topic of that day. Okay? It's just not just for the sake of creating. Okay? Not just for the sake of using instructional materials. It should support the learning or the understanding of the students on that particular meeting. And for number 3, all materials used must be a true assessment of the learning objective. As we have mentioned, it should always support the objective or the activity of the main topic of the meeting, of the class rather, and it should also be used or can be used to support the understanding or assess the understanding of the students as you deliver the lesson. Okay? Students will be able to give input as well as they see your instructional materials, as they explore your technology tools that you use in the instruction. It should support their understanding. really give them more areas to explore, okay, as you use the instructional materials and technology tools. And it is really essential that you make your instructional material personal, because every people or every human being, they really remember the lesson when it really touched them personally. But when we watch particular movie, we oftentimes remember that particular movie because we in any way related, be able to relate ourselves to the story of the movie. Now, the same way when we deliver instruction to our class, it should be personalized. You make it personal for the students so that they will be able to relate themselves to the topic that you are as well delivering to the class. Okay? So, with that, I hope that you will be able to deliver the instruction, and I hope you understand the characteristics. Just a few, we have just mentioned just a few of them, and I hope that this particular topic, were able to help you identify or help you choose appropriate good instructional materials and technology tools. So with that, thank you very much and God bless you. Bye! Sana po ay nagustuhan ninyo at may natutunan kayo. Pwede nyo pong i-share ang video na to para mas marami pa tayong ma-inspire sa klase natin. At kung nagustuhan ninyo ang video natin ngayon, click nyo na ang like button at mag-subscribe na rin kayo para maging updated kayo sa mga susunod pa nating klase. Thank you very much for watching, and always remember to be kind to one another. God bless.